on today's episode of Life Embodied.
If you keep on doing what you're doing right now, can you perform it for me? Could you please, as a character, can you jump 30 years ahead and show me how you're going to walk and talk to your kids or to the people around you, how your spine will look like? Can we make that kind of future prediction? Can you embody it? Can you show it to me? Can you perform it for me? And people come up with really interesting interpretations of how they will be in the future. And then they say, oh my God, I do not want to become that. I would rather imagine I would be someone else. And so there are plenty of different creative ways within which we can empower people to kind of find their own way to approach life more creatively, artfully. It must be artful and sensitive, and less in control, because things can arrange themselves by themselves rather than us always knowing what we are going to do and what will be the results of what we are doing.
Welcome to Life Embodied, where we explore how an embodiment practice can support us in meeting the challenges of life. How can we surf the waves of life deeply anchored in the safety of our bodies? How can we learn to trust our capacity to be with intense sensations and emotions? How can we cultivate body awareness, and why does it matter? Episodes include interviews with experts and practitioners that bring their knowledge and passion and share practical tips for your everyday life. I am your host, Katharina Alf. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the conversation. Welcome, dear listeners, to today's episode. Before we start, I want to tell you something, because I have been developing an online course. It's going to take place from mid-November through to mid-December. It is in German, so this is an offer for the German-speaking people among you. And it is called Compass and is about learning your body's language and learning to understand symptoms or make sense of symptoms. So if you have pain, tension, sensations that are unpleasant, that you have the idea that your body might want to tell you something with it, and that it's stress-related and it changes, but it's difficult to make sense of it, then you are really warmly invited to check it out and to take part. And you can find this on my website, which is katharinaalf.de, and then the workshop you find on /Compass, or click on workshops and then on Compass. That's it. This is my little invitation. And now let's dive into the episode. My guest today is Jozef Fruček. Jozef is an artist, dancer, choreographer, and movement researcher and trainer. In the embodiment and movement scene, he is best known for the fighting monkey practice that he founded together with his partner Linda Kapetanea. He graduated from the Academy of Music and Theatre in Bratislava, completing his PhD thesis with the title Voice Technique, Breath and Movement. Jozef teaches at different universities and gives workshops all over the world. Okay, welcome to the show, Jozef.
Thank you so much, Katharina.
It's really nice to meet you.
Very nice meeting you too.
And the very first question that I always ask my guests in the beginning is, what is it like being your body? What is the physical experience of being you? Maybe specifically today, maybe also in general.
How does it feel to be me, or being in my body? Well, I now it's 30 years when I started to practice with one of the masters that I visit for so many years. So now it's 30 years, and this one master that I was working with and gave me permission to teach after 15 years. He said, once I was in discussion with him, and I said to him, look, I'm troubled because people always ask me about the travel of the energy, how the energy travels there, and I feel this, I feel that. And I said to him, look, I don't feel anything. And I start to feel guilty about it, like everyone can express how there is this kinetic chain, there is this flow here, that flow there, the water is bubbling. And I say I can't really tell how things are traveling. Not that I would be insensitive to my body, but that I would not in particular kind of could express those very specific description. And he says, don't worry about it, because if energy flows, you do not feel your body. It is only when energy does not flow that you start to feel it. And so when I'm feeling good, when I feel somehow in harmony with whatever I do or whatever challenges I need to overcome, then I do not feel my body so much. It feels like everything nicely goes with me. I am taking myself with myself. But when there is an hindrance, if there is a conflict that I do not know yet how to resolve, or do not know how to take a particular angle, then I start to feel my body. So today I do not feel my body, because I feel like I feel attuned, and I feel happy that I'm meeting you here. So,
Uh-huh.
and everything went smooth. I managed to take my kids to the school on time, which is a
Mm-hmm.
great success. This is, I can give myself a golden medal for achieving my achieving my most important task of a day.
Uh-huh. Well, that's a really interesting answer, because I mean, I also talk a lot about flow, and I talk about how energies travel in the body. Or for me, that is the approach to trying to explain how sensations feel. Like, maybe we could say it feels like energy is flowing, because in the end, who knows what's actually
Yeah.
happening? Um, and I think that many people cannot really relate to this description, and they feel like, I don't feel anything moving. Like, I don't relate to this. I'm
Mm.
doing something wrong. And so I think it's really interesting that you say that you don't describe it this way, or that, yeah, that even if you're in a good state, you don't notice your body so much in a way.
No. Of course, that's feeling is an expression of energy cost. That means that if your predictions are not being met, right, then your body is letting you know something is in a mismatch of how you predicted the world, what is your hypothesis of the world, and what there actually is. So your body is letting you know basically about the cost of that particular activity, or kind of maybe a mismatch of what you believe that you can do and what there actually is available. So when of course when I say I don't feel my body, I am paying a great amount of time, paying attention to how I feel and how things are evolving, how my physiological states are evolving. But I engage in kind of proactive, maybe sampling of my internal states. So I would like to know, I would like to predict that if I keep on doing what I'm doing, how things will evolve for me in the future.
Hmm. Okay, so that would mean that symptoms or specific sensations are already, are the feedback of the body that something is different than we predicted or
Yeah.
anticipated.
Yes, yes, of course. We expect to stay in homeostasis, right? So we expect
Mm.
to stay within a very narrow range of viability. And we need to understand that homeostasis is a active state. And if we say that homeostasis is in an active state, it means it is like a carrying or keeping the ball on top of the mountain. And so if it goes on the slope and we react too late, then it will take us much more energy to keep us in homeostasis, to keep us in balance. And that could be expressed as a certain feeling, or that could be expressed as a small injury, or that could be expressed as a big injury. Maybe if the homeostatic, this kind of sphere that is on top of the mountain, falls too far away from the optimal range. And and so we need to always ask ourselves, then how much it costs us to stay in homeostasis.
Hmm.
If it costs us too much, then probably we are not doing something right in our lives.
Hmm. We're already, I feel like, very deep into things, and I can feel my excitement, like, ooh, going up. It's really, really interesting. Um, and I think before we dive into even deeper into this, I would like to take a step back to take the listeners with us where we're headed. And maybe we can start more in the beginning of the way I understand your work so far is that you really use physical training as a way to improve our whole way of being. Like not only our physical being, but all the other layers of thinking, creativity, facing challenges in general in life.
If I would compress the entire practice maybe into few sentences, that's how I explain it to my students. I would say, okay, we need to really learn only two things in life, right? To love life. Loving life is the most important thing. It means that you are not repetitive, you are not habitual, that you can really enjoy life, right? So loving life is one thing. And second thing that we need to learn is how to solve life challenges. If we are inspired, if we are engaged, if we embrace life, and if we are capable of solving life challenges, then we know all. So I said, wow, these two sentences quite clearly embrace anything and everything that we want to do in our practice. But then I said, okay, um, it seems like loving life is always interrupted with these challenges or problem we need to face in life. So I needed to combine these two sentences. So I said, okay, how we can be enjoying or loving to solve life challenges. So how we can be smiling and sounding well when we are solving the problems, because it seems like we every day we meet the challenges that we need to solve. And the answer to it is basically the whole practice could be then answered, or these two questions of how to solve life challenges with love would be the quest for better communication. So it means if we are engaged in communication, if we are engaged in a dialogue, then we most likely gonna solve the challenges that we are meeting and the challenges that need to be overcome.
What what do you mean with communication in this context?
Communication, when you look at any biological system, any system that is alive, right, then let's not go too deep into a biology, but let's say in order to stay alive, you need to be separated from the external environment from which you have arisen. Yes, so you have a certain identity. It may be a cell. Cell has a certain membrane. We have a certain skin, or it doesn't matter. But we are separated from the environment in order to preserve ourselves, and we need to communicate via that membrane, right? So there has to be a live communication, and if the communication stops, then the life stops. And so, if we would really express in essence what we are all doing in order to maintain ourselves, in order to be viable, in order to be alive, we need to communicate. As soon as that communication stops, as soon as we assume we know, as soon as we start to play one script only, or as soon as we only say monologue that we wrote as our belief about what the world is, then there might be more and more conflict between us and the environment that we are part of and from which we have been born or arised from.
So all of these things you explore in your physical practice through
Yes.
physical
So
exercises?
yes, not only for physical exercise as well. Um, um, I mean, in everything, body is involved in everything. So everything is kind of physical, right? You cannot think without being kind of physically active. There are a lot of processes happening while we are thinking. So, well, if you look at if you look at it really in the basics, what how I structure it, and I'm a little hesitant to kind of go too much in depth, because I do not want that it stays somewhere in the air, because the things should be evolving in a space we have to be practicing together.
Yeah.
But we could divide our practice into kind of two basic elements that are complementary. And our brain is taking in sensory information from within our bodies, right, like interoception, and then it takes the sensory input from external space, right? And I am very much interested in going more in a depth in what interoception means, how I can proactively looking at myself, seeing what's the effect of my communication on my physiology. And from that understanding, then readjust my behavior in the world. I simulate whatever I need to deal with. So, for example, I need to meet Katarina. I need to meet you somewhere, and I need to express to you, share with you my artistic project, let's say. So I simulate that world first in my head, then I can maybe create a small model on my table. I can imagine, okay, I will meet Katarina in a coffee place, or no, not in coffee place. I will meet her in a restaurant. No, in a restaurant, no, because that might take too long time. If things they go wrong, we will have to stay there for long. So maybe I meet her for a coffee. Which coffee I meet her? I meet her in this beautiful coffee next to the park, because if something goes wrong, then we can go for a walk. And then I will say, okay, wait a minute. Should I come earlier or should I come a little bit late? And so I make these simulations, and then I can maybe simulate it like we do in fighting monkey practice. Then we simulate it in a space. So we basically recreate the reality. And that would mean in sport that basketball players, when they work with us, we simulate the difficulties they had in a last match or last season. When there is a boxer, then we simulate a boxing match and we create games that would allow them to become better in what they want to do. Maybe you are a business owner, and so we say, okay, what is the information that is missing from you achieving a good communication within your company or with the world? Can we simulate that world, and can we simulate different possible futures? And so this is this kind of creative act on how we can be selecting the most useful strategies for our future actions. And once we select the strategy that we believe is the best, then how we adjust it, how we attune it as we run it through in a real life. So in this way, I believe that what we do is greatly universal and helpful to people from um, many different disciplines or many different domains of life, because I wasn't interested in doing something that would be useful only for one thing. I wanted to find out practice that would be useful to people in many different contexts, in many different situations.
So you would not only approach physical questions with this, like the question the basketball player might have or the martial artist might have, but you would also approach problems like the the coffee date.
Of course, also a coffee date. Look, we are facing a lot of different. We need to solve a lot of different questions in our life, and it is not only maybe how you can become the best athlete, or but maybe how you can become the best you. I mean, not maybe the best you. How you can manage your life in a more playful and more maybe more creative way. And maybe this is what we are questioning, and the question should start, Katarina, from one thing, and that one thing is, what is missing, or what is the error, what are the errors that we are creating in our life, and how we can overcome that, how we can minimize that mismatch between what we believe the world should be and what there actually is. That should be the guiding principle, not that I'm sitting here and I'm creating some kind of yoga or some kind of tai chi or some kind of method that I believe is best for the people. No, imagine that this is a platform. This is a creative platform on which we are trying to solve whatever needs to be solved. So let's say you are maybe an amazing athlete, but maybe you have problem with communicating people in a cafe. So then we're gonna work on the cafe and not on your athletic performance. Maybe you have problem with injuries. You have maybe a repeated injury in the knees. And so we are going to study. We locate you, what is your context, what is your age, what do you want, how much you want it. Maybe you want it too much. And so you have a problems in the knees, and you say, okay, can we organize your rhythm? Maybe that's the task. Rhythm is the most important medicine in our life, right? How much we do maybe too much, or we know everything, but we always say it in the wrong place and the wrong time. How many times this happens in our life that we are so knowledgeable, but we didn't say it when it's supposed to happen. We always said it later, or we didn't say it and we do not know why. And so all these different questions can come into the practice, and then we are trying to solve them. So this is a platform on which we are learning how to be creative about engaging ourselves with life and creating more opportunities for ourselves rather than diminishing the opportunities.
So it sounds like the correct diagnosis is super important. Like this question of what is missing or what are
Yes,
we missing here is like the answer to this might already provide part of the solution, right?
of course. If we are able to identify where is the hindrance and maybe for what reason, then half of the problem is already solved. But many times we even do not know how to ask the question. And so
Yeah.
I would consider it, when we are in this creative platform, when we are practicing, I would consider it as a theater. So it is an empty black space or empty white space, like when you saw in a movie Matrix. You know, Matrix movie. They had also this
Mm-hmm.
white space, and they could put anything into it. Of course, I don't want to put
Mm-hmm.
guns there, but I want to put there anything that I need to conceptualize about, or anything that I need to twist and turn and look from different points of view. So I believe that what's so interesting about the what is for me interesting and what is so inspiring and why I'm doing it for so many years is that I did not define for myself, uh, this is for what that practice is. I mean, it will make you better there, or it will make you better there. I'm not interested in what it will make you better. I'm interested in, can you be creative person? Can you be person that can smile more often? Can you be person that enjoys the interaction with the world in some way or another? So it is like a theater, and we put into that theater whatever we believe would help us to solve the obstacles that we have, or maybe enjoy even more what we are working on.
How do you come to a place of asking the right questions when you're presented with a problem? When someone comes to you and they present a problem, how do you find the right questions to ask?
If someone has a particular question or certain particular problem, I am not dwelling in them. What I do, I play with those people in a different ways. I put them in a different situations, and they will reveal by the way they act in the world what's actually the deal, what is
Mm-hmm.
actually the the
Mm-hmm.
hindrance. So
Mm-hmm.
because when you ask questions verbally, usually the monkey mind is so smart, and intelligence will twist things in a million different ways, but it will not reveal the truth. The truth comes from the way we act in the world. And so I present sometimes to people a task that is impossible to solve, but they do not know. So we play a game. I set the rules in that game, and I say something that is not possible to solve. And then I observe who will quit the earliest. So someone will quit immediately. I cannot solve this, And some people are looking always for a new solutions, and I never discouraged.
Ah,
Or I mean, you can create a different, various playful situations within which they tell you more about themselves than if you would be talking to them.
mm-hmm.
And so through that way, through that playful way, we learn about each other. But I'm not only learning about them, they also learn about me because I'm playing with them in some way or another, right? Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, you have problem with your knees, and okay, I take a practice ball. This is everyone knows probably who seen a little bit our videos, but we have many other small tools and games but let's say you have a practice ball, so you have a ball on the string, and they came maybe with the problems with the knees, and so you kind of ask them a questions. Can you follow with your eyes the practice ball? Can you stay in one leg and follow it and maybe touch it? Can you look around the ball while it's moving? And through that different forms of explorations, the body will reveal on its own where the trouble is. Is it coordination? It is rhythm. It is always the vantage point that we take when we are looking at the world. Do we always want to look at one particular way, in one particular way, at the world, or are we more open by nature? And so through the games we reveal, and then as we are revealing better who we are and we better understanding who we are, then we are not necessarily asking for correction. We just say, perfect, you have what you have, and that's perfect. Can we just only expand that world a little bit? Let's appreciate your past, whatever that past was, and whatever blah blah blah. But do you think, are you willing to learn? If you're willing to learn, you're very viable. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, viability is, or I do not ever judge anyone by who they are or what they've done, or I am only interested if they are willing and capable of learning. If they can learn, they are very viable. Means that an endless transformation, or maybe not endless, but a great amount of transformation is possible. And that will show me how much energy you have, how much energy surplus you have to re-engage with the world and maybe find new colors by which you can communicate with the others.
Yeah, it's really rich what you share. I just want to take a moment to really hear you and not jump to the next thing. Yeah, because yeah, what you just said about the ability to learn as like the in a way the only thing that really matters. Like the
Yeah.
I would really agree with this. I think because I'm mostly working one on one with people in somatic therapy. And I would say, yeah, this is the most important thing. If someone is really willing to learn, if someone doesn't come with an attitude of, I'm broken, maybe you can fix me, but I don't really believe in anything,
Mhm.
or, kind of these disempowering beliefs or
Yeah.
positions, or yeah, if they just want to complain, which is fine. There are moments in
Yeah.
life where we just wish to
Mm.
complain for a while, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely valid. But when I ask myself, what does it need for change to happen? What are really the important ingredients for change to happen? Is that someone is willing to learn and
Yeah.
eager to learn. And then sometimes things change so quickly.
And mostly by itself, right? We always have
Yeah.
some kind of everyone is selling some kind of magic pill, a magic method, magic way to help the others, but really there is nothing magic that could be prescribed to the great diversity of people and situations that we meet. And it's
Yeah.
usually our role is only to empower that person or empower that agency of that particular person that comes to see us, how they can create a decision and maybe open up the door again. And as you rightly said, or what how you beautifully said, sometimes people want to complain. Maybe they do not complain enough. Maybe they have to wait. Maybe when they come and they complain, we have to complain a lot. We have to take it as a beautiful theater piece. Listen, you are complaining, but not enough. You need to complain much more until it's exhausted itself, because we kind
Uh-huh.
of complain, but we feel that we should not complain. So we complain half. And that half is not fulfilled. So maybe you should say, please complain. And let's complain for 1.5 hours until you get tired yourself of complaining. And these are these creative situations. These are these kind of theater pieces that I know that theater has maybe some negative connotation to some people because they think the theater is fake. Okay, let's call it differently. We explore and the narratives, we explore the potential of what people bring to us. So if you're complaining, or if you let's just explore that complainment, and also try to imagine that if you complain in this way, how this kind of attitude will evolve, how you will look 30 years later. Can you show me how you will be walking when you're 80 years old if you keep on doing what you're doing right now? Can you perform it for me? Could you please, as a character, can you like jump 30 years ahead and show me how you're going to walk and talk to your kids or to the people around you, how your spine will look like? Can we make that kind of future prediction? Can you embody it? Can you show it to me? Can you perform it for me? And people come up with really interesting interpretations of how they will be in a future. And then they say, oh my God, I do not want to become that. I would rather imagine I would be someone else. And so there are plenty of different creative ways within which we can empower people to kind of find their own way to approach life more creatively, artfully. It must be artful and sensitive and less in control, because things can arrange themselves by themselves rather than us always knowing what we are going to do and what will be the results of what we are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the theatrical aspect that you share. It's really I used to be an actress in my first profession, so I can really
Beautiful.
relate to the performance of it. Yeah. Yeah, and I also agree to what you say that usually change happen by itself, or that it's not magic that the magician does to someone else. It's the very normal magic that happens within ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think what we as practitioners do is to point the attention of people to, for example, what is missing, what they are
Yes.
missing. And I think this is what we all crave so much when we go to someone looking for inspiration, for help, for healing, for whatever, is that someone points our attention to the thing we are missing. Like, I'm doing something wrong, and if I knew what I was doing wrong, I might change it. But
Yeah.
somehow I cannot figure this out on my own. And I
Yeah.
think this is something everybody experiences. Like
Yeah.
we never see the full picture. This is the beauty in a way, right? We need each other
Yes.
to see more.
And of course, through playing and dialogue and through different scripts or creating scripts, being part of a creative process, we understand so much about ourselves. But I kind of realized that we haven't been, or many people haven't had an opportunity to be part of creative process, creating something that would be their unique expression. I realized that this is what I consider as a movement practitioner, and that I had that opportunity as a kid not only to be an athlete but also being part of a art, and art allowed me to understand that I can create a world that never existed before. I can just, and I do not have to take the world as it is or how is it presented to me, but I can use the bits and pieces of what is available to me and create another world out of it, like a sculptor, like a performing artist, like a director. Or I can even invent entirely the new world. And and this is not a form of escape, of course, but this is a form of expansion of how we can be looking at the things that surround us, that we do not have to always take the world as it is, but we can improve our position in the world, which is very, very important. When people have a problem in the lower back, I used to say that's a problem of relation. It's a problem of how you or insensitivity on how you can improve your position in the world. My father gave me very good lesson very early in my age when I was working with him in a village and in the mountains and working with the wood and building up the house. And I was working quite a lot. And he said, first clean underneath your feet and then position yourself well to the work. When I didn't position myself well to the work, I always had a bloody blisters on my hands. But he said it's not about how much power you put in that work, but how you clean underneath your feet, so you understand you can position yourself and then find a good distance towards the work that you're doing, and speculate by which angle the material will give up. Right, when you are cutting the woods or when you are chopping the stone has a certain sound, the wood has a certain sound. Turn it around and look at it, how you would be chopping it, how you would be positioning yourself towards the world. The very viable, very important lessons that uh, I was maybe lucky enough to meet people that are always feeding me, or I was a good listener. I always wanted to hear these stories. These stories were so vitalizing for me. And my father, I was now visiting my father again. We were looking at, because he has the bees and he's making honey, and he's constantly in the mountains. And he said to me that I was hungry for stories. When he said a story or someone said a story, I always sat with open mouth. And I always said, again, say it again. So I was like a storytelling absorber. I could absorb anyone's stories, and he says that he said I was never worried about you because you could play with a string, I could play with a shoelace for hours, and I would be very, very good listener. He said. So he said I know that this guy is gonna be okay in his life.
That's beautiful. Mm. Can you share more about what you mentioned there? Like, I mean, I know lower back issues very well. Like, this is how I came to the whole somatic work, because I was in a lot of pain, and I discovered so many relevant things about it, and it changed so much. And still, it comes back sometimes as if to, I don't know, to keep me alert.
Yes.
Yeah. And you just mentioned, like, yeah, people with lower back issues. And I don't know if this was just like a random example, or if.
Look, people come with, or people are usually having trouble with the knees, which is not
Mm.
understandable to me. I mean, it is understandable. I just try to say it in a kind of philosophical way.
Yeah.
We should not have problem with the knees, because knees, the largest joint in our body, was evolving for at least 7 million years, from the older apes to newer apes. So we should, and it's a beautiful architecture. It's incredible. A lower back is extremely powerful, well positioned. The problem is that we are not dancing well with our bodies. We are carrying ourselves through our life. We try to be in control. We try to hold, and as soon as you hold, you are in a trouble. And so, problem with the knees, problem with the lower back, problem with the shoulders, or later on hips and hip replacements and surgeries. This is all due to, and not all. I mean, if you have a car accident,
Mm.
okay, I would say, okay, if we say this chronic pain because of the, is a
Yeah.
misusage. We misuse and abuse our bodies because we are insensitive towards our capacity to play with the gravity and play with the forces they act on us. We miss the rhythm and coordination. We are the society where we stop to dance, we stop to sing, we stop to dance with other people, and so we arrive to a big trouble. And just because of that fact that we do not dance now, don't I can imagine what's going on in the head of people, thinking a dance, a ballet, or dance, contemporary dance, or breakdancing. Dance, I mean dancing with the gravity, dancing with the force of order, dancing with the
Yeah.
environment that is changing. And dancing and vibrating and singing means vibrating, having a good sound, sounding well in
Mm.
ourselves. And since we are
Mm.
not doing that very much, there's a lot of holding, and holding that just basically destroys, demolish our bodies. The funny thing is that, I also had a big issue with lower back. I hurt my lower back very badly when I was 17, and I think it never really left my body. It's not like I don't have chronic pain. I don't have a pain in my lower back. I have strong lower back, but I know that the damage was there once. So the body always
Mm.
reminds you, and it's good that it reminds us. It's a good memory. I like it.
Mhm.
But I met beautiful people from, for example, freestyle wrestling, and I realized, wow, these people have healthy backs. They do not have as much herniations as, for example, people that would be laying on the ground doing maybe a jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. These people stand on their feet. They do different arches. They do a lot of crazy stuff. They have beautiful, strong spine. And I said, wow, how could I learn from them also to make my spine stronger? And what I learned the most from them is that they make themselves strong through dialogue with the body, another body, which means they try to wrestle someone down who is not willing to be wrestled down. And so you constantly look for a gentle readjustment to how your partner responds to your intentions. And you also try to avoid someone else to throw you down or wrestle you down. And this is the most Asian, the most important practice that we all should be doing. Because Africans been wrestling, Mongolians been wrestling, people from Iran been wrestling, the Russians been wrestling, we've been Greeks we've been wrestling all the time, but somehow this became only a sport, right? So this is only for the
Mhm.
strongest guys and girls. And but I think we all should kind of wrestle with each other, maybe more like a dancing wrestling, or maybe really like a fighting wrestling together, but hugging each other. All the
Yeah.
physio work is basically art of hugging. And now, can you hug? Can you embrace? Can you feel someone through hug? And then it can be taken into all physio line, or it can be then taken into martial art, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, sambo, freestyle wrestling, etc., etc. But the base is the same.
Mhm.
Embrace, get in close touch with someone, and feel them. Try to
Mm.
understand their intentions. That's the only way to heal someone. So I understood a lot about my spine through the dialogue, something that I would not be able to do within my individual practice or by lifting the
Yeah.
weights, as everyone
Yeah.
is promoting. That's like a total it's not total crap, but it's very limited. The most
Yeah.
what I learn about health of my spine is with the other people, that they do not want to dance with me all the time. That sometimes they dance with me and sometimes
Mm,
they don't, and I need to adjust to them. That was the most
mm,
beautiful lesson I learned in the last 10 years of my life.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, that really resonates. Like I'm I'm deep into the rough and tumble play, and
Beautiful.
really encourage my friends to wrestle. And I, for so many people, it's like this coming home to something that their bodies immediately recognize as very natural. Like it's such an animalistic, normal
Yes.
drive to do. It's such a normal way to engage with another body, I think. And everybody's like, no matter how much they wrestled in their life, or if they wrestled as kids or not, it's as if the body recognizes, like, ah, yeah, this is very normal.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Of course. You see the all animals that play with each other, constantly rolling over each other. So
Yeah.
it is important, and we are social creatures, so I guess exchanging a sweat with the others and smell with the others and feeling them, it's I don't know, I just wish for everyone to do that more often, like
Mm,
I to be with my kids and embrace them. If I could only embrace them more and longer, right? If I could only embrace and dance with my
mm,
parents longer and more. If I could only meet my friends and hug them and stay with them in touch longer, that would be fantastic. My Again, this is a story of my father. Of course, I spent some time with him. We've been once in a village, and he's seen one older woman sitting on the bench, and he came to her. He didn't know her. He came to her, sat next to her. He touched her hand and said something to her. I don't know what he was talking about. I was younger then, and I just was a little bit away. And he touched her hand, and he talked to her, and then he brushed her on the back, and then he left. And when I turned back, I saw that old woman. She smiled, and I said, "That's the power of touch. That's the power. You meet someone, and you." More than sharing the words, it's like, like you squeeze them a little bit and you stay
mm.
a little bit in close proximity and you're with them. This is very this is very important. And of course, I would encourage all the coaches and or the teachers of like these combative martial arts to open up to this general public, and maybe take
Mm,
the competitive aspect a little more away, and
mm.
create the taste for people to come and enjoy that touch and enjoy that light wrestling, because that can be very informative in many many different ways.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's I after this rough and tumble play experience, I went to BJJ classes because I was like, okay, I want to learn more about this, but and I enjoy it a lot and I learn a lot, but it's not the same because there is this competitive thing, and yeah, it's not so much about the individual exploration of how do I relate to you, but it's like applying techniques and yeah, and the playfulness in it is, I think, so important.
Yeah, it's important. I have also good experience. Well, I like freestyle wrestling because you need to stay a lot on your feet. You are not only on the ground, like in, let's say, in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. My preference is, of course, working naked, not naked, but without any gear, and then move around and control, learn how to control, not how to submit. And that capacity to control, to move without the other body, it's really, really
Mm.
beautiful. But I met people, of course, also in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, where we're very kind to not
Yeah.
submit me to every 30 seconds, but to roll endlessly until something emerges. That emergence is very, very important, so that people
Yeah.
grow into the practice, that they kind of start to intuitively understand what does it mean to be with someone and hugging and controlling them and sensing when they're where
Mm.
they want to go. I apply this process basically anywhere in acting classes or in classes for basketball or whatever, where I'm engaged in these creative processes. When we work with building up the coaches program, or when we try to help kids to become better. I was part of developing an athletic youth program for ice hockey players, and we realized that when we allow kids to explore, or even younger adults, then there's this emergence aspect, that things spontaneously they appear, and they get this right sensation on how to engage even in a more competitive game, right? So even when they need to win, they still stay playful. That playfulness is necessary in order to win in competition.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that they that you said you met kind wrestlers that didn't force you to submit every 30 seconds.
Yes, or maybe
That
every
for
15 seconds, I don't know. Maybe it was even,
yeah,
we could do even more often. And as I'm getting older, it's getting worse, right?
sure. Yes, it just very quickly for the listeners, forcing someone to submit in martial arts would mean that they tap out or they give up because you threaten their health basically through a
Yes.
choke or through an arm bar or something like that. Ah, very nice. So I recently did a little survey among my Instagram followers, and I asked them about their relationship with their physical bodies. And most of them said that what they feel they need the most is to move more. And then I asked them, so why don't you move more? I mean, they probably they have good reasons. Otherwise, they would just move more. And most of them said they don't have time to move more. And some of them said that they don't know how to move, or where it's not fun. They don't find a way to move. What would you say to these kind of problems? And I think they're super common.
Yes, well, maybe at the beginning, well, if I was growing as a child, being very active because that was the environment, and environment offered it. I had no option to stay in home. So as soon as I would be gone from the school, I would only appear in home to go to sleep. Otherwise, I would be outside. So it became necessity for me to be active, having an active lifestyle. For me, exercising felt stupid and inappropriate for my with, in comparison to my evolutionary history. I understood that we've been active creatures, and that's the exercise cannot possibly kind of substitute that active lifestyle. So I slowly created a world where I move most of the time, or my life is very very active. Even when I spend maybe 4 or 5 hours reading the research papers, or reading the books, or working on my own writing or some theories, I spend a lot of time sitting, but I it's intertwined with a lot of movement, or I'm looking for an opportunities to move. So I have created an environment within which I can move, and I would be able to do it probably even if I would be having an office job, or even if I would be working for a company. I have seen some guys taking care of the Olympic Stadium where I go to train, where my son is training, and I've seen them there, kind of sitting in their cars and there. So I would probably be already having some kind of activity around that car, protecting that Olympic Stadium. So I would be looking for the opportunities even on the chair or next to the. So it's an attitude that is important. But I understand that some environments have less opportunities for expressing ourselves, or having less opportunities to be active, or maybe some people do not have as much of prior experience on how to move, because people ask you how to move, how to be active. They are only exposed to exercises, and of course exercise eventually you will give up because they are just so boring, and they don't do not lead to anything. There is nothing inspiring about them.
Yeah.
Then we need to say that they need that kind of initial help, how to be able to create something for them that is useful to them. And that was exactly the purpose of what we call now FM practice, is to assist those people that never been exposed or have difficulties to find a readjust their lifestyle in such a way that that they would be able to be more active, or even being able to create their own practice, the practice that would support that particular environment that they are in. So they need at the beginning some kind of kickstart. So we inspire them, and
Mhm.
we share with them the principles of how this can be arranged. But I think everything starts by one simple fact that I realize that I have a desire to be more active in a life. And if the desire is there, we will slowly find a way to kind of incorporate it more into our
Mhm.
lives. So if the desire is there, we will look for people, we will look for connections, we will look for networks within which that desire can manifest itself and eventually become part of our everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think this is very encouraging for many people, probably to also hear, like, when exercises are boring, not interesting, when you really can't be bothered to get up and do them. You're not wrong about this. They are boring. And
Yeah,
there are
boy.
way more interesting ways to move than
Yes.
doing
Oh, you can
exercises.
lift weights, but it has limit. It has also
Yeah.
intellectual limit. Okay, how many
Yeah.
years you're gonna only lift weights? Of course, if you lift other people that they do not want to be lifted, you're not only becoming strong, but you're also becoming intelligent, and you also, like, you are engaging in a dialogue. Or
Yeah.
maybe if you want to work out, then go and help someone clean their apartment, or there are so many people that need help, so help them. What are you doing in the
Mm.
gyms there? Like, we are wasting time. Okay, like becoming stronger and more beautiful, but for what reason, right? So
Mhm.
just go and help many people. They need to carry things, so carry it for them, help them. This would be better
Mhm.
workout. You will be carrying objects that are irregular, you will be carrying them because they are too big and the staircase is too small. And
Mhm.
yeah, you will be at least useful, and people will remember you, that you are kind, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Look, everyone has to do what they have to do, and if someone wants to leave the weights, it's also okay. Anyone. I don't want to create an agenda. I believe everyone finds their own solutions within their own context. But of course, I have created a world for me where I spend most of the time with other people, and that's very nourishing, and I feel
Mm.
fulfilled. And when you
Yeah.
feel fulfilled in your life, you don't care even about longevity or health, because you know too well that there is no method, there is no nutrition, there is no activity that would prevent you from not getting injured or sick, or maybe even terminally sick, right? You might get cancer for no reason at all, right? So to say, right?
Yeah.
It's not always
Yeah.
your mistake. It's just something
Yeah.
went wrong in a copying of the genetic material or whatever. Or
Mhm.
so we should not be, when you have fulfilled life, you don't worry that you, because we need to define healthiness in a different way. The healthiness is not absence of illness. It's healthiness is that you are part of the network that supports you when there is a trouble, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, if I am gone tomorrow, I need to say to people, I've been very happy with whatever imbalances and failures and crazy conflicts that I had in my life with whatever my kids or my wife or whatever my parents. But I feel fulfilled, and that gives me another type of attitude towards my life. So I don't care about rushing to live 100 years. If it happens, okay. And I also do not do crazy stuff, not to shorten my lifespan. I'm interested in moving lightly and creatively and harmoniously within my body, because it costs me less, so I can do more, right? That's why I'm interested
Mm.
in that kind of thing, but not because I want to live long. Then maybe I should
Yeah.
stop to do anything and just worry about living long. We all try to preserve ourselves. Most of the podcast is like, do this and you will be younger, do this and you will, like, your heart, you will decrease the chances of your cardiovascular disease. I'm so happy with other people. Of course my heart is singing. I don't have to
Mm.
lift weights to make my heart stronger. I'm running because I want to deliver a message. There was one very beautiful friend I have, Bode from Congo, and his father always asked him to deliver some kind of letter to his friends. And that way he made him, because he was, and then when he grew up, he asked his father, why did you do this to me? And he says, well, I wanted that you see different cultures, different villages, different musics, and you move. And so delivering the message is a kind of different thing than going for a cross-country run. When I went with my father to mountains, we went for hunt. And it's not necessarily we went for hunting to kill animal. He wanted me to know about the nature. He wanted me to talk about the winds. I hated all that stuff, right? It's so boring. He walks slow. He shows you this plant. He shows you that tree. Look at this. And I was like, oh my gosh, just let's get to the. But that was the whole purpose, is that we went somewhere and then we observed the animals. And he says to me, is this animal healthy or sick? And I say, how can I know? I didn't do biopsy on that. But he says, you can see the way he moves, the way he sounds, the way what kind of territory that animal occupies. And so there you have the cross country running, because you walk and you climb and you go underneath and you observe. And that's completely another way of kind of approaching what healthy means, or what means exercise is. I cannot exercise. It's so boring, right? If
Yeah.
I miss
Yeah.
something, if I losing the range of motion because of my activity, I change that activity. I improve the way I'm doing that activity. I do not compensate. I do not go home and I run like shit. Then I stretch. I do range conditioning. It's sort of like range of motion kind of special exercises. And then I mold myself by running like idiot. And then I come back and I maintain myself and I keep on doing the same mistakes until eventually I get inflammation everywhere and I go eventually for the surgery.
Mm-hmm. Ah, so many nice, so many nice things you share. It's that when you shared about the boring hunting trips. It's so, yeah, to immerse yourself into nature with a task and then figure out the things you need to know to do that in a way.
Yeah.
And this is when everything becomes so meaningful, right? I just was on the countryside this weekend, and we were doing exercises in the grass,
Yes.
and there were fruit trees, so there were fruit on the ground, and there were a lot of wasps, but there were also hornets.
Yeah.
And because we were working in the grass, we had to pay attention to them. And this is how I learned that hornets eat fruit. I didn't know that before. And that they hollow the apples and just leave the skin and the core and eat the rest of it. And it was so beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
And, just because I wanted to move in this grass, I learned all of these other things
Yeah, and
and
that's this
learned to put
experiential
myself into
language.
relation.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is this very beautiful experiential language, because you learn about the ecosystem. You learn about relations, which is so important,
Yeah.
because we are so sad because we are so isolated. We we
Yeah.
we create compartments. We we do not sense that kind of interrelations, and then as more separated we are, more we feel sad, right? Sad from the fact that we do not have those relations that can be nourishing and fulfilling. Anyway, yes. Yeah, and we can say that nature is not only being in the mountains and villages, but nature is also being in a Berlin where you are, and that still offers a very interesting landscape to study and observe, right? So we can learn
Yeah.
there quite a lot as well. It's not because we are in city. Of course, city is a particular environment, but it still creates a lot of opportunities that we can explore there. I am so much interested more and more in simplifying. I went to see my tutor in communication. I finished my doctorate on voice and communication when I was young, and my tutor was Ludmila Machachova, a very beautiful human being. She was my teacher, and she, when I went to school, I used to say this story always in a mentorship. And when I went to acting school at first, after I finished, I decided, that I'm not going to continue with sports. I wanted to do art. I felt like I want to I want to have more freedom. I don't want to follow someone else's rules. Someone decides what should be the rules of basketball. I need to obey them. And so I felt art will be really, really great kind of completion, or they would complete each other. So I started, I said I will go to art school, and I first started to study as an actor. And as I came to university, I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to know, I wanted to be a stuntman, I wanted to be a lover and a hater and a villain, and all what I could possibly learn. And she was there, and she was this teacher of voice, and she said to me, Joseph, you only really need to learn one thing, and this is how you sound as yourself. Where do you sound the best as you? And if you understand that, and of course this is an endless process, but if you're always returning to that, how do you sound as you, you'll be probably capable of doing all those other variations of you, right? You will be able to absorb the texts of other people or other characters. You will understand yourself through the others more easily. You will understand also better the others because you're more open. And I've visited her recently, a few months ago, and I I have a lot of notes on many different things, and it's like it's maybe a 600-700 pages of a total madness because I'm not a good writer. I'm more a poet or more a practitioner. And then she looked at me and she said, Joseph, only 15 pages and stop. And she was kind of clear about it. She said, can you put it in 15 pages and express it clearly? And I'm thinking about it, like the modern physics, when you can express elegantly some really complex phenomena in a one equation, right? Or several equations that you can maybe put in one sheet of paper. And I'm also interested in that kind of compression. I'm also interested in that simplicity. That simplicity is something that inspires me. I see these beautiful people that are rather simple, and I'm also meeting these many scientists that are complicated and shattered into pieces. And it's not that one or another, but I'm just simply interested in the beautiful human creatures that can be simple and yet be useful to so many other people, without knowing maybe too much or not knowing that they know that much. And when I'm thinking of my life and I'm thinking of my children and I'm thinking of my parents and all my friends, I wish I could just be, or slowly being able to become more and more simple and empty myself in a not that kind of Zen Buddhist way or Taoist way, but really becoming more simplified, more transparent, more open, and more in this kind of less knowing, less holding like posture, and more vulnerable and more plastic, more neurally plastic, and more more open in my joints, so I could engage in more dialogue with other people. That's something that inspires me right now more and more. That kind of simplicity of acting and being and talking to others, being capable of listening to the others and being in service to them if they would need my presence or my experience. Not to be overcomplicated or steer or too much life of other people, but when they come to me, how I could help myself and them to become more balanced, more in peace with whatever they're working with. So that's something that is currently interesting me a lot. And so that was this hesitation at the beginning of our dialogue, like how to find a simple words to very complex and profound questions that you had. And I caught myself. I became a little bit self-conscious about, okay, I can go very quickly into biology and all these theories that are behind it, but this is not what the listeners maybe need to hear. Maybe we just need to share with each other inspiring stories so we can take the journey ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think this is really the like a lifelong exploration, right? To find simple words for the complex. Or yeah. Cool. So where might people find out more about you, your work? What would be good options to get in touch, to work with you?
I think it's easy. The social media monster. We kind of hold above the surface. We keep on posting and some ideas or the fragments from our workshops. So they can see us on Instagram, I guess, and Facebook, and we have our website. And if someone feel that we would be in any way inspiring to them, then they probably gonna find some workshops on some way to meet us and see how we are looking at the world and how we are articulating our practice, our creative
Mhm.
practice.
Yeah, I saw that there are a couple of workshops coming up still this year.
Yeah. And next year we go more in Asia and North America. So, and hopefully we come back to Berlin somewhere in May. So I
Oh,
may
cool.
see you
Good to
there.
know. Yes, yes. I already thought that I might have to go to Copenhagen again or to Warsaw. but
Yeah, these are
but
good
yeah,
places.
come to Berlin.
I will definitely. I love it there. I love Berlin very much. I
Cool.
spent there some time right after the breaking up of the wall, and
Mhm.
it was very special place. Since then, the Berlin has changed a lot, but I have still those
Mm.
memories with me.
Cool. Okay, Josef, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge and perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much for invitation.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. It inspired me to check out freestyle wrestling, and it's been a blast. Can't stress enough how much fun this is and how rewarding. And if you have the opportunity to check out freestyle wrestling where you are, go ahead, do it. It's really one of my favorite workouts and embodiment practices in one thing. And of course, please, if you enjoy the podcast, share it with your friends, subscribe, like, and let me know if you have any ideas, any questions, get in touch, and see you back in 2 weeks.